everybody. Welcome back to episode every 8. I need to restart my screen. I'm telling you, my mouth doesn't like me today. And so, hello, everybody. Welcome back to episode 86 of Talkoffamepod podcast with your host, Kyliemontigney. And so I have on singer-songwriter and host of She's on the List podcast, Liv Charette. Thanks so much for on, Liv.
Thanks so much for having me, Kylie. I'm so excited to be here.
Same here. I'm really so excited to have you on. So, you are a singer-songwriter. What made you want to start doing that and being part of this music industry?
Man, this is like, it was kind of one of those things, honestly, that I didn't expect to happen in a way. I mean, my family's very like musical. My grandfather was and still is a singer, and my uncle as well. But my path sort of started first as a figure skater, and I started figure skating when I was 3 years old. And then I did that competitively. I was doing it like 6 days a week, doing ballet lessons, had like 3 different coaches, had a personal trainer, and it just got to be like a lot. And my like little 14-year-old self, after doing that for like 11 years, was like, I don't know, I think I need a little bit of a breather, a little bit of a break. And when I decided to not figure skate anymore, I was sort of trying to find like, what is my passion again? And literally my parents went away on vacation one weekend, and I was staying with my grandparents, and I was like, Papa, can you teach me how to sing? Like, I love music and everything. And it was kind of something we could bond over. And he's like, absolutely. So we bonded over some ABBA music and we sang lots of ABBA songs together. And then my parents came back and I was like, I want to show you something. And they're like, okay, not expecting too much. And I sang for them and they were like, okay, did not know that you could sing. So that's sort of where it all started. And then went into vocal lessons and, started coming to Nashville when I was like 18. And it's just sort of one of those things. I feel like anytime I do anything, I do it like full force. I'm like, if I'm going to do it, might as well do it like in a big way. So I've been super committed to it ever since. And here I am in Nashville.
That's awesome. Like, what was like the hardest part for you, like doing a figure skating and all those things? For me, every time I do figure skating and all those things, I literally trip in the first like 5 seconds. I'm so bad.
I mean, I think it was something for me that really came naturally. Like my mom and dad, we went skating. I remember, I think as a kid, like before I was ever in lessons, and she put me on skates and I literally started just going and I was standing up, no problem. And my mom's like, well, I think this might be something that she could be really good at, or it might be something good for her to do. So literally I started doing like little group lessons when I was 3 years old, and it just kind of escalated from there. And my mom was actually a skater for when she was a kid too, actually for a few years. And she was like, I think she would really enjoy this. And sports was like one of those things too, that growing up was like important in my family to be like involved in other things, not just focusing on like school and studies or whatever. Like my parents really thought it was important to.
Yeah, that's how my family was too.
Yeah.
So our family's very sporty as well. Like sports has always been a huge part in my family's lives. So they're like, we need to put this kid in sports, or else like this is gonna be embarrassing in our family.
I know. And it's like, I think it's a great thing to not only like, obviously keep you healthy and in shape, but I think sports really teach you a lot of like actual life lessons. And for me, even though I skate sometimes, I still like to go and do it for fun. But for me, like skating really taught me how to like, compete, how to be put on the spot, how to be like, to perform in front of judges when everybody's looking at you. And like as a singer on stage, when you're, on stage, everybody's looking at you. So it really prepared me for the big stages as well. So
yeah, that's awesome. So you recently came out with a song called Game Over. What was your inspiration for Game Over?
Oh my. Okay. So Game Over is actually probably one of my favorite songs that I've ever written. Last year I got to go to LA for a writing trip, and I was there for almost a week, and we just kind of jam-packed it with a bunch of sessions. And I just like wrote some of my favorite stuff, and Game Over kind of came out of that trip. And I've always been a bit of a video game nerd. I love video games, and I grew up playing like Nintendo. I had every like handheld console you can name. Like just that's always been my thing. You can see my Nintendo Switch actually in the background over there because I love playing video games. And I wrote this title down, and actually my producer Jason Mader, who I also wrote the song with, he kind of was like putting this track together as we were writing, and it just had so many cool like sounds that reminded me of that like nostalgic video game, you know, thing when I was young. And I was like, I feel like this is the right fit for this kind of hook. So we just kind of went down that road, added even more nostalgic sounds, like things like sounds that are kind of like, you know, when you start up your Game Boy and it does that little ding sound, you know, just little things that I think people, if they grew up playing video games, would hear and be like, oh, I recognize that sound.
Yeah, exactly. And
yeah.
so you are the host of podcast She's on the List. Can you tell us more about that and why you started?
Sure. Oh my goodness. So She's on the List is kind of like my little baby. I have so much fun recording the podcast, and it's only been, my goodness, I guess we launched it in May at the same time as Game Over coming out, which was super fun for my management team. They're like, really? All the things. But I'm like, that's okay, you know. But no, She's on the List for me is really like this podcast where I get to kind of nerd out about everything and anything that sort of like is of interest of me. Specifically, I would say with like a lifestyle, beauty, makeup, cocktail culture kind of you know, overlying theme. So a lot of stuff that could be even just like what's relevant in the news too, or what's sort of going on. Like the last episode that just came out, I guess yesterday, actually was all about the new Jlo documentary and just kind of my thoughts.
It was so good. I was really obsessed with that documentary.
It was so good. It was so awesome.
It was so good. I was really crying. It was so good.
I know. She's incredible. And for me, it's just kind of like an outlet to be able to do like, you know, extra research and dive into things that maybe I wouldn't normally be doing on my day to day because I'm so focused on music. So for me, it's a bit of an escape to be able to dive into all of my other interests because I just feel like I have so much to say. I'm like, maybe I need to let this all out in a podcast. So I finally
in case you don't have anyone to talk to, you're like, oh, what's it all out? Podcast.
Yeah.
That's how I am. Like if I have a lot of things in my mind, I'm like, I'm gonna sit during this episode or something.
Yeah, it's so much fun, and it's such a creative outlet, and it lets me kind of just nerd out about things that, you know, it gives me an excuse to nerd out about things and do research and and hopefully other people learn stuff too, or I'm a fun companion on a road trip or a, you know, a plane ride or something, because that's what I like to do when I'm on the road or whatever. I love to listen to podcasts. So I'm like, why not start my own, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I was also a big podcast fan as well before I even started. So I was like, I know how to start podcasts, even though like I love podcasts. Like, do you have a favorite podcast that you listen to?
What, sorry?
Like, do you have a favorite podcast that you listen to? Because like I'm literally looking for suggestions on podcasts. Because I'm like getting bored of listening to the same old podcast every single day.
Ooh, okay. So I feel like when I'm like driving or I'm in the airplane or whatever, I tend to dive into like true crime ones. I don't know what it is about being like, if I have like an 8-hour drive for some reason, I just want to listen to like true crime ones, but you can only listen to so many of those because after a while it's like, okay, that's a lot of murder. let's take a spin off that. Some of my favorite of those are Morbid and My Favorite Murder. And then as far as like lifestyle ones go, I've been following a lot of like YouTubers and influencers for a really long time. So I love to listen to like Pretty Basic with Alicia Marie and Remy Cruz. And then I also listen to Thick and Thin by Katie Bellotti, and just love kind of, you know, keeping up with them. And Katie's is always a lot of fun too, because she usually has a sort of storytelling component, kind of catch up with her life, but also there's usually some historical fact that comes into it every so often, and I always enjoy those little storyteller moments.
Yeah, do you listen to the Dax Shepard podcast as well, or you don't?
Ooh, I haven't heard that one. No. What's
Yeah,
that one
the
all
Dax
about?
Shepard thing has been on for going on for like 2 or 3 years, I think. It's been going since like 2019. It's really good. Yeah, like
Ooh,
big
okay.
celebrity interviews, like Anderson Cooper, some other big stars, Ellen Pompeo. There's so many, like there's so many big stars on it. I really recommend it. It's so good.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to check that out for sure. I'm always looking for new podcasts, so I'm gonna write that one down.
And so, do you have a favorite like podcast episode that you filmed that she's on the list, or something that kind of meant the most to you or stuck out to you?
This is tough. I would say honestly, it's a split between the Jlo one that I just put out because I really felt like as an artist, I was able to really relate to everything that she was talking about in that
Mm,
documentary and just kind of, I don't know, appreciating her story so much. I felt like I had a lot to say about it.
yeah.
So that one I really, really enjoyed. And then I actually really enjoyed recording the very first episode. I think it was one of those things where I was, trying to set the tone of the format of how I wanted it to sort of flow. So sort of doing like a little catch up at the beginning and then talking about what the subject is that day. And then I do a little section at the end called bottle service where I talk about my favorite drink of the week and then 4 of my favorite products. So I had a lot of fun kind of doing the first episode and talking about the inspiration behind the actual cover of the podcast, which was the Beverly Hills Hotel. So I did a whole episode dedicated to the Beverly Hills Hotel and its history and story. And I actually got to go there while I was in LA. And I really felt like that was like a pivotal moment for me in my career to be able to go to LA and write a lot of songs and be like, those pinch me moments. Like here I am in the Polo Lounge and I'm
Yeah.
writing songs and I'm like, this is everything I could have ever dreamed of. And I'm doing the thing. So
Yeah.
it kind of was the inspiration behind this podcast because I just felt so, I don't know, alive and so inspired in that moment. So I decided to kind of put it as the background of the She's on the List cover. And yeah, so that's kind of, I would say, one of my favorites. And also a funny moment that like was not intentionally planned at all, but one of those like meant to be kind of moments was the day that it was released. I think it was May the 12th. The day it was released was actually the 110th anniversary of the hotel, which was not
Wait,
planned.
really?
Yeah, it wasn't planned at all. And I was like, okay, it's like one of those, little signs that maybe I'm like,
I
I'm on
guess
the
it's
right
like one
path.
of those meant to be moments that you literally had to post
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, what are the odds? Like, here I am recording this, but it's not like registering in my head that it was built on that day.
it. Yeah,
And it ends up
exactly. You're
being
like,
released.
it
I'm
was
like,
actually built on his day. Like, oh my god.
yeah, like what the heck?
Like, out of
So,
all these days, it's this day I released it.
yeah,
It's crazy.
yeah.
And so you were featured by Rolling Stone as a powerhouse vocalist. Like, did you ever kind of expect in your career in music and this in general to get a bunch of recognition for your music and all of that stuff?
Man, I mean, when the articles came out and Rolling Stone and Billboard, that was seriously one of those like pivotal moments, definitely in my career that I'll always remember. And just seeing my name included amongst all these amazing artists and being kind of the featured song of the week and all that stuff, it truly meant the world. And I guess like I don't know if I like I'm not necessarily maybe expected it, but in the sense that I've worked insanely hard, so to get that recognition from an outlet or well a few outlets that really love my music just really meant the world and kind of solidified that I'm on the right path and I'm doing the right thing. And I don't think anybody really does it necessarily for the recognition or for the awards. If they do, maybe they're in it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
But as an artist, it's always nice to kind of be recognized in that way and recognized amongst like your peers or people that are in the industry that really admire what you do. So it really meant a lot to me to have that. And
Yeah.
I have the article framed in my house just as a reminder on those days. And I'm like, maybe feeling a little down, just look at that article. I'm like, okay, Yeah,
It's a
we're
little
okay.
motivation to make your day a little bit brighter.
Yeah, I
That's
think you
what
gotta
like Jlo said
celebrate.
in her documentary. Like if you are in it for awards and stuff, like you're really in it for the wrong reason. That's exactly what she said. I just like
Yeah.
once you said like that clip, I was like clip.
Yep, absolutely.
And so like what kind of inspires you to write your music? Like personal experiences or anything that kind of inspires your music?
I would say so many different things. I am definitely the lyricist, I would say, in the room. I feel like lately I've actually had a lot of input on melody as well, but typically I'm such a stickler for words, and I will, fight a line sometimes if it's not like the right line. I always say to like people that I write with, I'm like, I'd rather reschedule a second date and really get this right than to try to rush through something and it be something that we're both, or the three of us, aren't like super proud of. So
Yeah.
that's kind of always been my philosophy, being a little bit of a perfectionist, but I just love having a really, really strong hook. And that's kind of where I like to start things off with. And that often does come from, personal experience. It could be, channeled through like friendships or relationships, or even like my friends' crazy stories sometimes too. You're just like, man, I got to write that one down because that is a great hook for a song. Thank you very much. So
Yeah, exactly.
sometimes
It's
it's
just the
girl
little
talk.
things that make you want to write something
Exactly. Yeah. And sometimes even like podcasts, honestly, I have written down things during like podcasts that people have said, and I'm like, that's a great way to put it. I love that metaphor. Or my other song, Red Flags White, was literally inspired from something a Peloton instructor said. Kendall Toole, while I was riding the bike, she was
down.
talking about bleaching red flags white in her life and ignoring, the signs of, maybe somebody isn't the right fit for you, but you just keep pursuing that relationship because you just want it to work out so bad. And I was like, I love that visual of red flags white. And I had to write it down just on my Peloton. I'm like on my phone. I'm like, okay, resume ride. Okay, we're good.
Yeah. And so do you have anyone that you really look up to as a singer songwriter, or just in general? Do you have anyone that you look up to?
Oh, so many people.
Yeah, that's how I am. I'm like, do I have to choose one or a couple of specific people? There's so many.
Yeah, I would honestly say a lot of powerhouse females that have kind of come before me and helped pave the way for artists like me. One of them being Tina Turner. I've always been such a big fan of hers. And as a kid, my parents and I used to watch like her DVD live concerts. And that's kind of something that we'd do like on weekends or whatever. We'd, watch it on the big screen. And I just always admired her as a performer. I also love like rockers like Pat Benatar and people that just give it all out on the stage. Pink. I mean, I want to see her in concert so bad. I can't believe I haven't seen her yet, but it will happen.
Yeah, Pink is so amazing. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, she's incredible. And people that are just like, I don't know, insanely talented vocalists. Because for me, like, just I really admire that in people being able to sound exactly like their records.
Yeah.
And live, sounding amazing live, but also putting on a show and giving it all on the stage and leaving no stone unturned. Like they really always give their 100%, and I admire that in all of those amazing, incredible artists.
I love that. Like, if you could really collab with any singer songwriter, who would it be in like country music or any genre?
Ooh, man, I guess like if it's like modern music, like right now, I would love to do a duet with Dua Lipa. She's like
Oh my gosh,
I
she's
love
amazing.
everything. I know, I love everything Dua Lipa. I got to see her in Nashville at her concert, and she was just like amazing. And there's just something about seeing like a pop show that I just absolutely love, because there's so much like theatrics in it. There's so many lights, and it's a really big like production. So I love that. And yeah, her, or I also love Miley Cyrus, and I love her rocker phase. I'm like,
Yeah.
I would love to do a rock song with her and just friggin' belt it.
Yeah, I love that. Miley Cyrus is literally queen, seriously.
She's incredible, and she just keeps like evolving, and like, oh, she's awesome.
Exactly. So the final question is, what is the advice for younger generations that to be like a singer-songwriter one day?
Ooh. I would say always do it because you love it and always remind yourself why you're doing it. I would also say, surround yourself with people that you trust, because that for me has always been the key to, I think, any success that I've been able to have, is to just have a really strong support system, whether that's like my family, my friends, but also like my team around me that believe in me, as much as I believe in myself and understand my vision and understand like what I stand for, and can sometimes even like, when they're in situations, they know what I would say or how I would react, and basically being like inside my brain. And that's what I'm really grateful to have, is an amazing circle of people that are just like insanely hardworking and just understand me. So I would say like find those people, because if you haven't found them yet, they are out there and they will believe in your vision. Like, never sacrifice who you are and what you stand for and the music that you want to sing about. Like, don't let people try to change that if you really believe in it in your heart, that it's what you're supposed to be doing.
Exactly. I really 100% agree with that, seriously. So I just want to thank you so much for jumping on the podcast. Absolutely so much. It was such a pleasure speaking with you. It really means a lot. We'll definitely speak soon for sure. Thanks so much.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And you're so incredible and so inspiring. And I love what you're doing, and just keep going.
Oh my God, thank
You are
you
a
so
boss
much.
babe.
Oh my God, thank you. Thanks so much. And make sure, where can people find you on Instagram, by the way? Like social media.
Yes. So you can follow me at Liv Charette on most things. For some reason, not on TikTok though, because that name was taken. I'm like, I feel like my name is very unique, but on TikTok, it's
places.
yeah. On TikTok, it's at Liv Charette Official. That's really where I would say I'm the most active. Also on Instagram too. And if you want to check out the podcast, it's available on all platforms. Just look up She's on the List. Also have an Instagram for that. That is my fun little creative outlet of doing like little sassy memes and, and throwback pictures. So it's a lot of fun. So you can follow that at She's on the List pod on Instagram.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Everyone go follow her. And yeah, thank you so much for listening to today's episode, and catch us soon next couple of weeks. Thanks so much. Liv.
Thank you. We'll see you guys later.
Bye.